Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban has met with Russian President Vladimir Putin for talks on the war in Ukraine. Mr. Orban is the EU's only head of national government to have kept close ties to the Kremlin following its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. He describes the trip as a peace mission, and it comes days after he visited Kyiv. In footage of the meeting, Mr. Putin said the Hungarian Prime Minister was visiting not just as a long-time partner, but as a European Union representative. Hungary has just taken over the EU's rotating presidency and will hold it to the end of the year. In the meantime, the visit has been criticized by EU leaders who have emphasized that Mr. Orban is not acting on behalf of the bloc. Some European leaders openly condemned the Moscow trip. Finland's Prime Minister called it disturbing news, while Polish Prime Minister tweeted, "The European Council is clear. Russia is the aggressor. Ukraine is the victim. No discussions about Ukraine can take place without Ukraine." Earlier this week, Mr. Orban visited Kyiv, saying a quick ceasefire could be used to speed up peace negotiations. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who has had frosty relations with Mr. Orban, did not publicly respond to the proposal. But many Ukrainians believe any ceasefire would simply cement Russia's hold over territory it has seized from Ukraine, and if negotiations were to take place, they would prefer them to be conducted from a position of strength rather than on the back foot. Let's get more on this. Anna Chernikova is the VOA's correspondent in Kyiv, Ukraine, and she joins us now. Anna, great to see you today.
Good evening.
And how is Ukraine receiving the news of Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban in Moscow days after he was in Kyiv?
First of all, there is one official comment from the Ukrainian authorities. It came from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine said that this was not agreed and discussed with Kyiv. So.
Apologies, we lost connection with Anna Chernikova from Kyiv there. We'll try and establish that connection as soon as we can. But now let's turn our attention to the war between Israel and Hamas. The Lebanese armed group Hezbollah has launched more than 200 rockets and attack drones into northern Israel in response to the killing of one of its senior commanders. Israel's military said one of its officers was killed in the barrage, which started a number of fires. The military also said it had targeted Hezbollah military structures and other targets in southern Lebanon in response to this. Lebanese media reported that one person was killed in the Israeli drone strike in the town of Hula. The latest barrage, which followed one comprising 100 rockets on Wednesday afternoon, was one of the biggest so far in the 9 months of cross-border violence, which has raised fears of an all-out war. Hundreds of people have demonstrated in front of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Jerusalem residence, calling for his resignation and a prisoner swap deal with Hamas. Demonstrators marched through the streets of Jerusalem, heading to the PM's house on Gaza Street, where police erected a barricade. The protest comes amid ceasefire negotiations in Doha, attended by a Mossad delegation following a yet undisclosed response by Hamas to the Israeli peace proposal earlier announced by US President Joe Biden.
We are going out every week, sometimes twice a week, because we feel that Israel doesn't have a leadership that takes it to any direction. The war is going on without any strategy. The hostages are dying and no one cares.
We are demonstrating against a corrupt government which has failed in every sense. They have failed in the war, and they decline to have an investigation. The 60% of the population is against them, but they won't go down. They keep on doing corrupt changes in the government and actually want to eliminate democracy. We will not give up. We will fight through every last day. This government must go home.
And the VOA's correspondent, Anna Chernikova, is back with us from Kyiv. Anna, welcome back. I started earlier by asking you how Ukraine, is receiving the news of the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban's visit to Moscow days after he was in Kyiv.
Yeah, good evening. Well, there is one official comment already from Ukraine, from Kyiv. It comes from the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and they say that this visit was not discussed with Kyiv and was not even mentioned to Kyiv. So Ukrainian side did not know about these plans by Mr. Orban. But anyway, the main point and the main message from the statement from the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine is that Ukraine does not want any talks about Ukraine to be done without Ukraine. So with this, we can say, we can make a conclusion that, of course, Ukraine is not happy with what's going on, that some kind of talks is happening behind the back of the Ukrainian officials. But again, from the other side, the discussions that which are present in the Ukrainian society is that this is not really a big surprise, because Orban is well known for his pro-Russian position. His quite a good relations with Mr. Putin, and Hungary in general is pretty much supporting and protecting Russian position within the EU. So this is not that much a surprise, but again, we all also understand that, and this is what Mr. Borrell said, that this visit by Mr. Orban to Russia was not mandated by the EU. So it's basically Hungary Prime Minister's decision and so-called bilateral, let's say, negotiations and bilateral visit. So, well, it's just, it just would happen. It's just something that Ukraine, well, I guess pretty much made it clear that will not be happy with any negotiations taking place without Ukraine, about Ukraine.
And EU leaders have also, raised their concerns about this meeting, saying this does not represent the EU. What does President Zelensky have to say on this?
No comment from President Zelensky yet, but maybe it comes a bit later on, as very often he is commenting on such kind of events, international events, in the evening, in his evening address. But at this point, yes, we do hear that EU leaders do not stated that this is not something that Mr. Orban was. Well, it's not something that Mr. Orban is doing on behalf of the EU, so he's not mandated to do this on behalf of the EU. But again, well, we will see what this meeting will bring us. But at this point, Viktor Orban said that this meeting made him understand that Ukrainian position and Russian position about any prospects of and any possibility of the peace talks are very far away from each other, and positions of both countries are very different and far away. And he mentioned that his aim as the prime minister of a country which is currently will be heading the EU for the next 6 months is to be kind of a peacemaker and to make sure that peace, well, possible peace initiatives are taking place. So we will see.
And recently at the Astana summit, Russian President Vladimir Putin reiterated the guidelines to a ceasefire in Ukraine. This has not gone down well with the Ukrainians. What do they propose would help bring an end to these hostilities?
Well, basically, Mr. Putin just repeated whatever he said previously, maybe in different words, but basically he said that the only possibility for peace talks and any future peace agreement is if Ukraine takes Russian proposals and follow Russian proposals, and basically for Ukraine and from Ukrainian perspective, this would be to surrender and just to capitulate and just to let Russia have what Russia wants. So. And basically, this is why the war is ongoing, because Ukraine just doesn't want to be under Russian rule or under Russian control and under Russian pressure. And basically, what Putin is suggesting and what Putin wants and what Putin rhetorics is that well, Ukraine should do so. And at this point, we can see that President Zelensky, from the other hand, is also trying to persuade certain peace initiatives, and he announced that second peace summit is under preparation, and also he announced just yesterday that Russian representatives possibly will be present at this second peace summit, and but not Putin, apparently. Again, this is according to Zelensky, so we do not know the details and we cannot verify this information. But according to President of Ukraine, Putin will not be present at this point, at least, but Russian representatives will. And this is how he is trying to get Russian side involved into possible peace talks. And in general, we're hearing a lot from the Ukrainian authorities recently, for the past months, that actually Ukraine wants to get to certain negotiation on peace, and Ukraine wants peace agreement to be on the table. So I think that answering to your question, probably second peace summit might be one of the steps, but again, it is important to understand the position of the allies, because it looks like that Ukraine and Russia will need a certain third party, let's put it this way, for this negotiation. And it looks like, again, at this point, from here inside of Ukraine, that probably the peace agreement might be something similar that Ukraine already signed on Black Sea agreement with Russia, when Ukraine was signing agreement with Turkey and UN, and similarly Russia was signing it as well with UN and Turkey, and no signatures between Ukraine and Russia directly. But again, this is just talks around, and there are options that Ukraine is proposing, but again, the most important question is what Russia will be willing to do, and if Russia will be even willing to participate in any kind of negotiation.
And the UK has been strategic in peace efforts in Ukraine, but power has just changed hands in the country. How is this being perceived in Ukraine? At this point,
Ukraine is does not see any change in the UK's policies and politics regarding Ukraine, because we can see that the Minister of Foreign Affairs, new Minister of Foreign Affairs, and new Minister of Defense are those guys who already demonstrated support to Ukraine. So they are quite pro-Ukrainian if we discuss it in the context of Ukraine. And for Ukraine, the change of power in the UK is basically doesn't really change much. And new prime minister also looks like, and at least according to what he said before, he's quite supportive towards Ukraine. So at this point, there is no fear or no worries in Ukraine that UK will not be as persistent and as supportive as it was before.
Anna, thank you for your time.
Thank you.